Good evening and welcome to the extra session for the subject Urban Governance and Development Management. I see no one has joined yet, so I'll wait for some time, see if any learners join, and then I'll start the session. It's 10 minutes now, but still no learners have joined. So I think I'll just take a brief overview of what has been covered in this course so far. I'll also introduce some different types of questions that have been covered in the assignment that might be a guide for what kind of questions you might face in the upcoming exams. So I'll just go over that and see if any learners join and they have any doubts that need to be cleared. But till the time that anyone joins, I'll just go over the course coverage and the different types of questions that have come up in the assignments and might come up in exams. Okay. So this is the extra session or the revision session for the subject urban governance and development management. This was a 12-week course and 12 weeks of the course are already over. So this is an additional session apart from the 12 sessions that we've had for each week, where we go over the lectures of the week and the questions related to the lectures of the week. We practice questions which were assigned in the previous runs of this subject, and we go on about what has been covered in this week and what kind of study material or background material you need to uh, go study about for solving the questions that week. And then we practice some questions. We see how certain questions which are assigned or similar to the ones which are assigned to you in the particular week, how you can solve them. This week, however, is different because all the 12 weeks of lectures are over and this is a revision week, and we'll just go over what all has been covered in this lecture or in the subject. What are the different course objectives? What was the course coverage? Which weeks pertain to what part of the course objectives? And what different types of questions were there in the assignments and you might face in the exams. So these were the two course objectives of this course. The first objective was to equip the working and future city managers with a comprehensive knowledge on urban governance, and the second objective was to develop skills required for management for urban development at the organizational level as well as the personal level. So this is a course which targets an audience which are either studying the role of urban managers and how urban management and urban governance is undertaken in Indian cities. So either the person can focus on learning the role of an urban manager and how urban management and urban governance is performed in Indian cities, or it can even be targeted towards urban professionals who are working with the urban management or in urban governance systems, and they can take up this course to learn more about how at the organizational level and even at the personal level they can better themselves to be better managers for more sustainable, more efficient urban governance and urban development. So these were the two course objectives. Then this was the course structure. The course structure was divided into three major chunks. First was urban governance, second development management, and third self-development. So in the urban governance, there were four specific sections which focused on the basic concepts and legal provisions related to the urban governance, then how urban governance enables the management of people, land and environment in an urban area or in Indian cities. Then the third section would be on the organization development. So how urban local bodies in Indian cities or other related urban governance bodies are organized, who are the different members of the organization, how they interact with each other, how they collaborate and cooperate to perform different urban functions in Indian cities, how are the powers divided, what responsibilities are associated with which kind of urban local body, and things like that. Then was managing change, which was the last section of the urban governance part of this course. So in this you would have studied how any kind of change or reform in an urban setup is managed by the urban local bodies or the urban governance and management systems, how people associated with uh, that system can equip themselves better to adopt to a certain change or to equip themselves to better adopt to a certain change, how they can plan to bring about that change, how different finances and financial resources can be used to fund such changes, how planning for such changes is done, how implementation is done, how the efficiency of the implementation process and planning process can be improved, things like that. Next section would be the development management. In this, there were several sections which included urban and metropolitan planning, municipal finance and accounts, urban housing and disaster management, challenging urban issues, centrally sponsored schemes, and project planning and execution. So this is basically what all different tools and frameworks exist for managing development in an urban settings. This section talks about that. So first of all, you would have studied how in a city, in an urban area or in a metropolitan region or in a metropolitan area, planning for development management is done. Then how how financing of certain plans and programs in urban areas is done, what account management systems for that exist, how it is enabled by the legal and technical framework that exists in urban settings in India. Then a little bit about urban housing and disaster management. So how urban housing is provided in Indian cities, what are the different frameworks for providing urban housing, which are the bodies associated, what are the different strategies for provision of urban housing for uh, maybe the urban poor, so basically inclusive housing for all. Then a little bit about urban disaster management or urban risk management, how different risks are tackled at an urban level, which are the bodies involved, uh, which are the bodies which provide expertise to handle different urban disaster scenarios, etc. Then challenging urban issues, which talked about different challenges that urban areas might face, so environmental challenges or other challenges related to urban areas, and then how the risk related to such challenges can be managed and overcome through urban development and urban management practices. Next, the centrally sponsored schemes. So, what are the different kind of centrally sponsored schemes that exist in India, which fund urban development in Indian cities? How do urban local bodies take advantage of these schemes to fund uh, the projects in Indian cities? Things like that. How these schemes enable urban development in Indian cities. We would have studied about that in this section. Last would be project planning and execution. So, how projects are planned. So, starting from the conception of the project to formulating particular detailed plans or detailed project reports for the project planning, then finding schemes to finance the projects, then implementation of the projects, monitoring and feedback loops for projects, how are they planned and executed, all of that you would have studied in this section. The last section was self development, which focused largely on developing at the personal level the skills and competencies of the city managers or the people who are involved as urban professionals in the urban governance and development management systems. So, this had two key points. First is the leadership role of city managers. So, how the city managers can take a leadership role, what are the different competencies that they need to hone in order to be the leaders, to uh, focus on forwarding the image of their city and ensure and enable smooth and efficient functioning of their organizations or their groups or their teams. Last would be self development, so focusing on personal stress management, uh, personal time management, things like that. So, this is the course structure. These are the key points or key subheads under the course structure that have been covered in this course. These are all the lectures that have been covered in this course, and I have roughly marked out which lectures pertain to which section of the three parts of the course structure. So you can see here that courses or lectures from week 1 to 4 were largely associated with urban governance. In week 1, you would uh, uh, you would have covered the introduction to urbanization and urban governance. In this, you would have had a lecture on introducing urbanization, the process of urbanization, how urbanization is occurring in India, at what rate, through the decades, how urbanization has occurred in Indian cities, at what rate the urbanization is occurring, how it affects urban and rural populations, how it is measured, and again the use of census data to understand urbanization, how you can access the census data, and what key factors to look on while trying to understand urbanization. Uh, those parts you would have covered in that lecture. Then you would have a little introduction to urban governance, focusing on what aspects of urban governance are there that you would study further in uh, the next lectures. You would have studied a little bit about the constitutional provisions for urban and local governance in Indian cities, the legislative provisions for the same, and the organizational interfaces that exist that enable urban governance function in Indian cities. Week 2 was focused on people, land, environment, and municipal governance. In this, you would have had the first two lectures on people and community, so which focused on how people and community are organized, and how functions related to the needs of people in the community are enabled through urban local governance or municipal governance. Then you would have studied about land, how land management is key to urban governance, how land can be used as a basic resource in case of urban development planning. And next, you would have studied a little bit about urban environment and ecology. So, how the urban environment in any city enables or guides the urban governance function in the particular city. And again, a little bit about municipal governance and the distinctive features of municipal and non-municipal urban areas and other areas like Nagar Panchayat. In week 3, you would have studied organization, accountability, and capacity building in urban scenarios. So, in this, you would have studied first organization development, how organizations are developed, then how transparency and accountability is ensured or provided for in urban scenarios, what are the uh, acts and rules that exist which enable accountability and transparency in urban governance bodies, and how one person can take advantage of that in order to hold its urban government accountable and have a transparent view of how urban functions are performed by any urban body. Next two lectures would have been on capacity building. So, how capacity building is done for urban local bodies. Why? What need is there for capacity building? What functions are hampered when enough capacity or enough capacity is not developed in the urban local bodies, and how that can be rectified. Last would have been a lecture on improving systems and processes of urban governance. So, again, an extension of capacity building. So, how the processes of urban governance can be improved. Uh, Next would be week 4. In week 4, you would have uh, week 4 was largely about urban reform, urban change management, and the leadership which enables such urban change. So, first two lectures would be on urban reform and managing change. So, how urban reform is brought about. You would have had examples of several acts and laws which brought about urban reform, and how such change was managed in different Indian cities. Then lecture on visioning of cities, so how you make a vision for cities, and according to that vision statement or vision policy document, how you further detail out what uh, how the city planning should be done, and then how particular projects and detailed tasks should be developed in order to carry out development or manage development in the cities according to the vision that has been defined according to a vision document or a policy document. Next would be resolving conflicts for managing change. So related to managing change, if there are any conflicts, how the conflicts should be resolved, how they are resolved, what are the processes in urban governance systems related to that. Last would be leadership and team building. So how the leadership in urban governance body or the managers in urban governance body can take charge of any kind of change management, and how can they contribute to team building or they take up team building in order to ensure more efficient provision of reforms and change in Indian urban scenarios. Uh, Next section is development management, that is from week 5 to week 9. So in week 5, you would have studied urban planning, development and infrastructure management. In this, there you would have largely focused on the urban planning function in the urban governance uh, sphere. So how urban planning function is provided in Indian cities. So what are the different basic concepts of planning and development which come under the purview of the urban planning function. How the regional and metropolitan planning is done in Indian urban areas. How the urban planning is done. What is the role of urban local body in that? What is the role of urban development authorities and state government departments and parastatal bodies in that. And last, how urban infrastructures and services are provided, and what are the different provisions for that, which different government body participate in that. What is the role of ULB, how the role of ULB varies from smaller cities to medium-sized cities to larger cities, etc. Next would be week 6. So week 6 was largely about municipal finance and different strategies for provision of or funding or financing of projects. So this would involve PPP, public-private partnership, and other innovative strategies that might be used by municipal bodies to finance municipal functions and municipal projects. So first, you would have a lecture on municipal finance. So what are the sources of municipal finance? How the municipalities deal with uh, this finance? What are the systems? Then a lecture on what are the alternate sources of municipal finance. So apart from the regular sources of tax collection or other user charge collection, or other things through which the municipality finances itself, what are the alternate sources which municipalities can access to finance the municipal functions or the projects in urban areas. Then a little bit about municipal accounting, so how accounting is handled in Indian urban areas or in Indian municipal organizations. Then little bit about value capture financing, so how several uh, municipal organizations in India have taken advantage of value capture financing, and that is an innovative strategy or innovative model which have been used by several municipalities in India to fund or finance several projects. Then a little bit about public-private partnership. So how such partnerships can be used to finance projects in urban areas, and how does urban governance fare in such kind of partnership. What is the role of the public body? What is the role of private body? And what are the different models of this partnership which can be used to finance what different kinds of projects? So this is what you would have covered in week 6. Week 7 was urban housing, real estate, and land and disaster management. So, largely focusing on housing strategies for cities. So, focusing on housing for all. So, largely focusing on urban poverty and how to provide housing for the urban poor. Then a little bit about real estate regulation and development. So, what are the provisions for real estate regulation in Indian cities, and how real estate development is taken care of by the urban local bodies and other parastatal agencies. Then a little bit about urban land management, how land is managed at the urban area. So things related to town planning practices or different methods of urban land pooling or making land available for urban or municipal projects, things like that. Last would be a small lecture on urban risk and disaster management. So, how urban risk and disaster is managed in Indian cities. Next would be week 8, which focused largely on urban environment, transportation, and public spaces. So, first two lectures would be on managing the urban environment. In this, you would have studied the different mandates for blue-green infrastructure. Uh, Yeah, sorry. So, in week 8, the first two lectures would have been on managing the urban environment. In this, you would have studied what are the components of urban environment and what are the different mandates that exist for managing the urban environment or for managing the blue-green infrastructure in Indian cities. Next two lectures would have been on traffic and transportation management. In this, you would have studied how traffic and transportation is managed in Indian cities, what role do the urban local bodies play, and how they ensure the efficient management of traffic and transport systems in Indian cities. Next would be designing of urban public spaces. So, what are the components that need to be focused on while designing urban public spaces? How urban public spaces have been inspired from historical or ancient public spaces, and how their examples have been incorporated in Indian cities, not only to harbor more um, culturally or socially sound public spaces, but even retain the um, I'm forgetting the essential word, but even to retain uh, the historical significance of the public spaces in the particular area or in the particular city. Uh, Next would be week 9, which is the last week for development management. So, in this week, you would have studied centrally sponsored schemes for urban development. So, the first lecture would have been covering different centrally sponsored programs and schemes that exist and how they are used or they enable urban governance and development function in Indian cities. Then you would have studied in detail about a few schemes which include Amrut, the Smart City Mission, the Swachh Bharat Mission, Hriday, and PMAY and NULM. So this is what has been covered in the development management part of this course. The last part is the self-development, which includes lectures from week 10 to week 12. So the first of this would be urban project planning and management. So in this, you would have studied the fundamentals of project planning and how projects are formulated, um, how the monitoring and management of different projects is done, what are the essential infrastructures and uh, essentials of infrastructure design, what are the essentials of engineering design which need to be kept into mind while planning for our municipal projects or urban planning projects, and lastly about managing transmunicipal and large projects. So how projects that encompass uh, jurisdiction areas, which doesn't only restrict to one municipal area but goes into several different municipal areas, how such projects are managed, what collaboration systems in India exists between different municipalities or different urban local bodies, and how that enables uh, uh, the taking up of projects which are of the scale uh, which uh, which are transmunicipal. I think I have made a mistake here, so I'll just correct that quickly. So I think uh, the development management section would be till week 12 and not uh, not till sorry till week 10 and not till week 9, and the self development section is for week 11 and week 12. So I think this is now better, or this better reflects the course structure and the course coverage. uh, Okay, so the last two lectures, which is the week 11 and week 12 of lectures, those reflect the lectures on self development. So, week 11 would be about skills and competencies for effective city management. In this, first you would have studied of how effective city management can enhance a city's image, how the city can perceive what its image is, and focusing on that, how effective city management can help a city enhance its image to fulfill its particular objectives or its particular goals. Next would be the essential competencies of city managers. So, what different competencies that city managers should focus on, how they can enhance those competencies and things like that. Next would be problem solving and decision making. So, how problem solving and decision making is tackled in the urban scenarios, what role do the city managers or the urban professionals play in problem solving and decision making, and how better, more efficient problem solving and decision making can be performed in a municipal setup or in municipal systems for urban governance and development management in Indian cities. Next would be effective negotiation and communication skills. So, two lectures focusing on how city managers can learn better negotiation skills and better communication skills. That would be week 12. That would be about professional development and best practices in urban management. So this the professional development section basically focused on time management and stress management. So how can individuals focus on time management and stress management for self development? And the next section would be about best practices in urban management. So it is kind of an example for reflective learning for excellence in urban management. So, learning from the best practices which exist in India, what can be learned from them, how can one reflect from the learnings in those examples, and how such learning can then influence adoption of similar practices in other urban scenarios. So this is what the course structure and coverage has been in this course. Next, I would tell you a little bit about the different types of questions that have been covered in this course. I'll just give an overview of what are the different types of questions that have been uh, given in the assignments, and which reflect both the questions in the assignment and probably the questions that might come up in the examinations. So I'll just go over what the different types of questions there are and how to go about solving these questions, what are the areas or what are the key aspects which you need to focus on while solving these questions, and how you can manage your time better while solving these types of questions, or you can better answer these types of questions if they come up in any further assignments or in your exams. Okay, so the first type of questions which you would have come across in these assignments would be true or false type questions. So these are some examples. Very simple, very easy to understand. You would be given a statement, and seeing that statement you have to tell either if either the question or the statement given in the question is a true statement or it's a false statement. For example, you can see here the first statement is stress can bring psychosomatic ailments in people. So you have to just state if this statement is true or false. Similarly, next question, in India, urban areas with a population of 100,000 or more are known as cities. So uh, first you have to, there are several components in this question which you need to focus on. First, we are talking about urban areas. Second, we are talking about urban areas in India, so in not in any other country or not in a general sense, but specifically for India. Then we are talking about specifically population. So what is the criteria of the population, or what population criteria enables for urban areas in city to be called as cities? Sorry, what population criteria in India enables urban areas to be called as cities or towns or metropolitan areas or metropolitan regions, etc. So, for example, you see here you have 100,000 populations, and yeah, the question is asking if uh, the population in an urban area is more than 100,000. So, first of all, you have to uh, think back to the definition of how cities or urban areas in India are defined, and then you have to again focus on the numbers here, and you have to go back and remember what number of population in an urban area. So here urban area, it's already defined that an area is an urban area, so you do not need to focus on the urban density or the occupation of the people, only on the population criteria. So a similar question might come, which might be only a true or false question, but it might have several components which you need to focus on while answering the question. So this is another example. Then is another example. So first Environmental Protection Act in India was introduced in the year 1986. So again, you have to focus on what act it is talking about, in which place it is talking about, and what year it is talking about. Again, focusing on several aspects, you can further answer if the statement is a true statement or a false statement. So this is the first type of questions which you have encountered in your assignments and might again encounter in your exams. Okay, moving on to the next question. So the next type of questions which you have encountered in your assignments is the single option correct type multiple choice question. So it is a multiple choice question. You have a question and you have multiple choice options given to you, one of which is the answer. So single option correct means only one of these choices is the correct answer for this question, not more than one. So, in this type of question, for example, the form of education in which the student reflects upon their learning experience is what? And you have four options, and only one among these four options is the correct answer for this question. For example, in this question, reflective learning is the correct answer for this question, and it is the only correct answer. Classroom learning is not a learning experience in which a student reflects upon their experience. It's a learning experience in which there is a teacher or an instructor, and then there are learners or students. There is constant communication and exchange of knowledge and information between the teacher or the instructor and the students or the learners in a classroom learning experience. Similarly, online learning is not an example of uh, reflective learning, or an example where a student reflects upon their learning. Similarly, MOOC or massive online open courses are again not examples uh, of reflective learning, or a setting in which a student reflects upon their learning experience. So the correct answer for this question is only one, which is reflective learning. Similarly, this question, which of the organizations are not involved in a participatory planning at a local level in the municipality? So you might get confused. For example, ward committee is one which is involved in participatory planning. Board of councillors again are involved in the participatory planning. So is the community development society. So why is it confusing? That there are multiple options which might be connected to the participatory planning, because you need to focus on this note here. So be very careful while answering single option correct type MCQs. Focus on the questions very carefully. If they are asking for the organization which are involved in the participatory planning, or they're asking for the organizations which are not involved in the participatory planning. So the easiest trick, or the easiest way to ensure that you do not get your answers wrong, is to focus on what type of question it is. First of all, if it is a single option correct type MCQ, there only will be one single option that is correct. There won't be multiple options which are correct. Again, if second step to ensuring that you are answering correctly is focusing on the question very carefully. Focus on if there is a not in the question or not. Focus on the language of the question. Ensure that you understand the question correctly. Do it very carefully before answering the question. So I hope that was clear. Moving on to the next type, which is multiple option correct type MCQ. So essentially, in your assignments, even the multiple option correct type MCQs were uh, formulated in a way that you were answering them as single option correct type only. But in the exams, or in further assignments, you still might get questions which are multiple option correct type MCQs. They often carry higher marks than single answer correct type questions, or true or false statements, because you have to focus on options where more than one option can be correct. It's not necessary that more than option can be correct. One option will be correct. For example, you can see either one only can also be true, or three only can also be true. But whenever it is a multiple option correct type MCQ, it is suggested that more than one option in that question can be correct. So for example, here you can see, consider the following sources of revenue for urban local bodies and choose the option which consists all the direct sources of revenue for ULBs. And you have four options, and one or more than one of these options can be correct. So this is one example of a multiple option correct type MCQ. Next, you would have found this process or order type MCQ. So this is essentially a single option correct type MCQ. But in this type of an MCQ, you will focus on getting the steps, either the sequential steps of a process or order of a steps uh, right, in order to get to the right option in the question. For example, in the first question, they have asked that what are the steps for a systematic approach for training, or SAT. In this, you have several options. So identifying you have specific steps, which is identifying need, design, implementation, and assessment. And you have several options which identify uh, uh, in which order uh, the process will go. So first of all, you need to, if you already know the systematic approach, what different steps are there, you can go about that, choosing different option, focusing on the different options and selecting the correct one from that. But I can tell you an easy trick. First, focus on the first sequence, or first thing which comes in that, and among the four options, see which option correctly states the first step of the process. If you do not remember the first step, you might remember the last step, so you can focus on the last step also. And among the options, you can see which option correctly states the last step. So for example, in this, if I remember the last step is assessment, you can see option 1 and option 3 both state that assessment is the last step. Another two options do not state that. So essentially, I can eliminate the other two options and I can only focus on these two options. Otherwise, if I know that the first option or the first step of the problem is identifying needs, so I can easily eliminate the other three options. And even though I have not looked at the second, third, and the fourth number of steps in the other options, I can easily uh, save time by just identifying that this is the correct steps, or this is the correct order of the steps, and I do not need to waste time in focusing on the order of steps in all the different options. So this is easy way which you can go about solving such kind of questions. So this can either be for a process, so the different steps of the process, or for ordering uh, some kind of list which might be in a sequential order. So for example, this is the correct question for the correct sequence of behavioral change during an organizational reform. So such kind of questions might also come, and these are a few tricks which you can use to correctly answer these questions, and might also save some time while answering them. Next question, which you might get, are fill in the blanks type MCQ. So this time you have not gotten any questions which have fill in the blanks where you need to enter what should go into the blanks. But you've got for even for the fill in the blanks, you've gotten options from which you can select. For example, in this statement, project is a X set of interrelated tasks to be executed over a fixed Y and within certain Z and other limitations. So you have three spaces X, Y, Z which you need to fill, but instead of fill in the blanks, you've got an options which you can select. So this is the common type which you have seen in your assignments. But apart from this, you can even get these type of questions. So again, this is a similar type of questions in which you have a fill in the blank, but you only have to select one option which will go in the blank. But you can get this type of a fill in the blank question as well. So for example, this question asks that the interaction of organisms with each other and their surroundings can be referred to as dash. So you have to fill in the blanks for this dash. So try to make sure that you spell your answer correctly, but uh, and try to focus on answering in a very short and precise manner, not uh, going overboard with answering in detail, because this is a short answer question and it is only a fill in the blank. So focus on answering shortly and precisely, and focus on giving the correct spellings for your answer, because often these assignments or these exams are marked by computer systems uh, which do not take into account incorrect spelling. So you might have answered your question correctly, but if you have a spelling mistake in your answer, the computer system which is correcting these answers might reject your answer and take it as a wrong answer instead of a correct answer. So pay very close attention to questions in which you might need to be or you might need to fill in the blanks, or you might enter the word or the string for fill in the blanks. Okay, moving on to the next type, which is match the column. So in this run, I think you have not gotten any questions in which you have had to match the columns, but this kind of question can also come. Often, even in this type, you'll get multiple choice or single option correct type question, in which you would already have like P1 or Q2, R5, etc. But other times you can even have match the columns type of a situation in which you only would have to enter what uh, elements of the column 1 matches with what elements of the column 2. So this is again another possibility of a type of questions which you might get in your exam. Next is type 7, where this is not a different type of a question. It is very similar to uh, the single option correct type question, but I wanted to bring it about because there are many questions which are this type of questions, which is full form type of questions. So for example, in question 1 they're asking the full form of BOT, which is build operate transfer, or build own transfer, or borrow own transfer, or borrow operate transfer, which one of these is the correct. So you basically need to remember the full form of important keywords or important abbreviations which exist in your lectures. So for example, in the second question they are asking you the full form of NIDM, which is the National Institute of Disaster Management. So what you can do is that you can make a list of key or important abbreviations that you would have covered so far in the lectures, and you can quickly go through their context to understand better what they are in order to remember them better, or you can even memorize the full form of the important abbreviations which are there in all your lectures. Last is type 8, uh, which is important dates or important years type of MCQ. In this, you are often asked an important date pertaining to a particular question. For example, in here you can see the first question is Real Estate Regulation and Development Act, or RERA, is an act passed by the parliament in which year, and you have four options and you actually have to tell in which year the act was passed. So for example, RERA was passed in 2016, so you have to remember important dates. Second, when was the national action plan for climate change, or the NPCC, was launched in India? So again you have to remember key dates. So again, for this example also, similar to full forms, you can make a list of important dates or important years that you have studied or learned in the entire course, and then you can memorize the dates or read further on the context of the particular act or the particular uh, event that the question is talking about, so that you can better remember when it was introduced and what impact it had, and or you can just memorize the dates or years. So this has been all. So this is all that I wanted to tell you in order to better prepare you for answering any kind of questions that might come in the assignments or in the exam. I think I'll wait for 15 or 20 more minutes to see if any learners join with their questions. If learners join with their questions, I'm happy to answer their questions. Otherwise, I'll just wait to see if anyone joins and want to ask anything, because this essentially is a revision session or a problem solving session. I do not have any course material to discuss. So I'll just wait for 15 or 20 more minutes, see anyone else joins and wants to ask any doubts. Okay, I'll just put up a message here in the in-call messages, so anyone joining can see and they can get an idea of what we are waiting for here. Okay, I'll just wait, see if anyone joins, and then I can answer their questions. I think I'll close the session. Uh, there are no learners, no one has joined so far. So I think I'll close the session. If you have any doubts, please go ahead and look up the session on YouTube. I discuss the course structure, the course coverage, and the different types of questions that were covered in the assignments. Thank you all for listening, and this is the last session for this subject. Thank you all for attending the sessions and for taking up this course. Thank you.